2:11 a.m., and the second hand on the wall clock has stopped again. My name is Caleb Mercer. I'm in the basement studio of KZRP out of Cheyenne, Wyoming, though the mast that made us an FM station is a black skeleton now. What you're hearing is AM on 640 kilohertz and a weak relay on 30 meters when the skip is kind. If your dial is a little off, sweep slow. The night is near freezing. A north wind keeps scraping at the door like dry fingers. The lights above the mixer are running off a car battery and a converted inverter that hums like a wasp in a jar. If you can hear me, you are not alone. And if you can't, I'm saying this for myself, so I don't forget how a human voice sounds. 16 days ago, the TV in the corner of this room showed a weather map that wasn't a weather map. It sat there with little red blocks stacked across the Pacific, like a game you lose by moving. The ticker said defense incident, then regional strike, then limited exchange. And every time the words changed, the producers cut back to aerial footage of blue water and a ship wake that seemed calm enough to drink from. That was the first odd thing. Calm water while people talked about fire. I turned the volume up and heard a studio guest cough when she thought her mic was dead. That cough sounded scared. Back then I told myself she just had a cold. The second odd thing came a few minutes later when the NOAA weather radio on the shelf burped out a civil emergency message in a voice that wasn't the usual flat robot. It said, "Stay indoors, shelter in place." And then it said, "Presumptive contamination." A phrase I had never heard on NOAA, not even during the refinery fire on I-25 2 summers back. I checked the frequency display 3 times like numbers could lie. The third odd thing was the way the jets started layering the sky before noon. Not streaks like you see above Denver on a clear day. Lines and wheels, and then nothing. No sound. By sunset, there were no planes at all. Just the drone of my neighbor's generator, and a smell of brake dust from the empty highway. Everyone keeps asking when the first flash happened. I didn't see it. I didn't see any. I saw the power stutter, and the refrigerator made a long sigh. And then I was in the hallway with the dog and a mop bucket full of water because the old civil defense brochure says to fill one when the sirens go. Our sirens never went. Quiet can be worse than a sound you're trained to hate. You keep waiting for a sound you think means there's still time. The dog tried to drink from the bucket and lapped like he was between mountains in July. I said no, and he looked at me like, "You don't even know why you said no, do you?" And I didn't. I'm supposed to keep this useful. I will. If you woke up to this show like you hit a strange button on a radio you found on a shelf, here's what I know right now. It is early morning, wind chill in the teens, no precipitation in Laramie County. Surface winds out of the north-northwest at 15 to 20, gusts a bit higher. If you're in a place with trees, listen to their tops. They tell you more than the strip of sky you can see. If you are inside concrete, crack a window on the leeward side to bleed out any overpressure. If you're below ground, you're safer than above. If you have a meter with a Geiger symbol, it should read in microsieverts per hour, not some cartoon needle with a red zone that makes you panic. Numbers matter. Panic does not. I have a hand counter here that hisses like a bad cat and stays below 0.6 when the door is sealed. When I open the door, it spikes to 3 or 4 at the threshold and drops again by the time you reach the stairwell. The dust is the thing, more than the direct shine. Wipe it, bag it, and don't breathe it if you can help it. There are gaps on the dial where big stations used to live. Cow out of Denver is gone. KOA was a hiss last night, then a man whispering a prayer, then nothing. I can still catch scraps from KSL in Salt Lake at night if the Skywave isn't broken, and from a relay somewhere near Grand Island that says it's an ag station, but now just loops the emergency alert system tone every hour on the hour like a heartbeat that forgot what it's for. At 1 o'clock, I caught WWV on 10 megahertz for 9 minutes. The time call was right. The voice was the usual measured man. But someone had inserted a short text after the minute tone. Nuclear detonation hazard continues. Shelter in place. That's the first time I've heard that word from them. Time keeps its manners even while you lose yours. It makes me feel sick and steady at the same time. You want to know how it climbed this fast. You want to know who hit what and who hit back. I don't have the list you want. I have pieces. The first pieces were cargo ships that turned away from the Strait of Hormuz all at once like somebody pulled a string. Then, the Japanese fishing fleet pinged AIS in the wrong place, and NATO went quiet on public channels they used to fill with dull meetings about fuel. A captain from a tanker out of Rotterdam called me on our old request line 2 nights before the lights failed and said, "They told us to drift off the Azores and wait." And I asked, "Wait for what?" And the reply was, "For the sky to clear." He laughed when he said it, and then he started to cry, and then the call died. That's how this started for me. Not a flash, but a man laughing and crying on a satellite phone. Escalation feels like a ladder until you need to go down and there is no rung below your foot. The refineries at Billings stopped flaring one by one. The rail yard west of here parked trains nose to nose, so they block the road forever. Fort Collins sent out a text that said boil water, and then a second text that said, do not boil water. A school superintendent in Greeley left a voicemail on our public line asking if she should open the field house for people to sleep in, and by the time we called back, her number had turned into a recording from a phone company I don't recognize. A friend at Warren Air Force Base used to come on air with me during charity drives and talk about F.E. Warren's history and the museum and the old Titan skeletons. The week before the flashes, she said, "Caleb, I can't come in. We're locked down in a way we have never been locked down." Then she said a thing she should not have said. She said, "The old things you think are retired are not retired. They are a list on a screen and you can move them with 2 clicks." I asked if this was about missiles, and she didn't answer, and we talked about her kids' hockey practice like 2 people on a porch. People say governments went silent. They did not go silent at first. They shouted. There were alerts, then counter-alerts, then messages that canceled the last message. Then people on TV in front of flags with eyes that looked glassy and wide. Quiet came after, like when you shout yourself hoarse and everyone in the room stares at shoes. The federal feed that used to crawl under local TV cut to an eagle and a seal, and then to black. State websites started serving pages from 2016 because that's what was left in the cache. One governor called for calm while someone off camera said, "We can't say that word." The word was fallout. They did not want to say it, like not saying it could make a particle heavier, so it falls sooner. I'll put an insider theory on the table, because that's what we do here now. Say the hard thing, then test it against the world we can touch. I got a burst on the emergency ham bulletin the night of day 2 from someone who signed as Dr. Means, UC Davis, Atmospheric Sciences. He said the first wave was mostly high air bursts to scramble eyes and ears, not to crater cities. He said the second wave put teeth on steel. The third wave lit what the second missed, and then he said the thing that made me put the mic down and walk in a circle. He said, they shaped the bursts to make their own weather. He said, you don't need to blow up a dam when you can blow up the sky so that the rain hurts the valley. It sounded like poetry and madness, Then the front range got a dirty snow that stung the skin and stayed on the sun side of fences, but not the north side. And I thought, maybe madness is a scale, and I'm late to it. I have calls. The board is a snake pit, and everything crackles. But I have calls. We still take them. We still braid the wire across the desk, so the plug doesn't fall out. The number, if you still remember it, is unchanged. If you call and all you hear is your own breath, hold until you hear mine. We're not a real station now. We're a wire and a battery pretending to be one. But if you can talk, talk. The first caller tonight is Tom from Scottsbluff. He has been sleeping in a tire shop with 6 other people and 2 dogs, and the tire smell has sunk into the blankets. He says a train full of grain cars sits across the main crossing and nobody can move it. He lists the car numbers because that's what men do when they face a thing they can't control. They name it, they number it, they put it into a chain. He says he watches the sky at night for moving stars and wonders which ones mean good and which ones mean bad. I ask him about water. He says they have good wells and bad buckets. He says the kids cough dry and then stop like their lungs forgot what goes next. He asks if I know where the nearest hospital with power is, and I tell him the truth. The last ER I heard from was in North Platte, and they said to send only the ones who can walk. He says, "We have a boy who can walk, but he sees lights that are not there." I say, "Give him sleep and slow sips and keep him away from windows for a week." It is not enough. He says, "Okay." He means, "I will try anything." The second caller is Anita in Fort Collins. She says the volunteer fire station opened the bay doors and turned the engines so the radios face the street, and now it is a beacon. People stand 6 feet apart without meaning to and listen to the radio like it's an altar. She says a man in a tan coat stood by the door and told people to go home because the city is under a shelter order that now includes curfew. She says the man in the tan coat had a badge from a federal agency she didn't catch, and a week ago those badges meant everything, and now they mean a piece of metal with letters in the wrong order. She says she taught 9th grade English for 14 years, and she doesn't know what to tell her students about the morning anymore. I tell her to read them something dull and kind. Read them the names of rivers. Read them the parts of a radio. She laughs, and the laugh is hollow and warm at the same time. She says, "We made shadow puppets on the bay door at dusk, using the engine's headlamps." The kids clapped like it was fireworks. I write that down, because a piece of joy is as useful as iodine. I want to say out loud what my body keeps saying when I try to sleep. We lost our ordinary. That's the hardest part. The coffee maker in the break room is a sculpture now. The office upstairs with a plaque that says General Manager holds 2 cots and a box of saltines. The live read ad inventory sheets are tinder to start a fire in the metal trash can, because sometimes the wind dies and the cold walks closer. We take turns wrapping our hands around the can and talking about the before times, and then someone says, "Stop, that hurts." So we talk about the after times, and then someone says, "Stop, that sounds like a lie." So we talk about now, and that is the smallest of the 3 and the only one that doesn't bite. I keep a little spiral notebook of rumors. I try not to infect you with them. A rumor is a virus that uses hope as its host, but some rumors are thick enough to test. Rumor. A column of lights was seen over western Nebraska just before midnight, heading south. Tested against radio traffic. Short burst from a guard unit near Sydney asking for permission to engage an unknown air formation. No reply. Rumor. A convoy of school buses left Rawlins full of children headed to a camp in the foothills. Tested. The highway cameras are dead, but a rancher on a ham set 20 miles east of Sinclair said he saw buses with paper signs in the windows that said 5th and 6th. He said one driver wore a helmet. Rumor. The big box store east of Cheyenne opened its doors at noon and handed out water for free. Tested. A deputy from Laramie County came by the station at dusk with a pallet slip that matched the store ID numbers and 2 jugs on the back of his truck he said were from them before it went bad over there. His eyes were hollow, and he smelled like a burned battery. I'll give you the escalation as I felt it. Step by step, no music, no cover. Day 1, the emergency alert without a siren. Day 2, the traffic lights blink red and stay. Day 3, the grocery closes, then opens, then closes for real. Someone leaves a handwritten note that says, "We tried." Day 4, the first line forms at the clinic and wraps around the block, not for shots, for numbers. The nurse gives out numbers because numbers feel like answers. Day 5, the first night that is quiet enough to hear the transformers sing. Day 6, the transformer behind the post office pops like a bottle of warm soda and a chunk of black glass hits the pavement and skitters under a truck and does not stop because the truck isn't there to stop it. Day 7, someone boards up the windows on the corner bar and someone else writes "open" across the plywood with paint. And inside, they serve warm beer and warm soup, and a man plays a guitar with 2 strings because the other 4 broke, and the broken ones sound like old nerves. Day 8, a convoy heads east on I-80, and nobody waves. Day 9, a convoy heads west, and nobody waves. Day 10, a woman brings a ham rig to the station and says her husband was a storm chaser and now it's mine. I take it like she handed me a newborn. Day 11, a boy tries to sell me a bag of AA batteries for a lot of cash, and I give him a can of beans instead, and he looks like I slapped him. And then he says thank you, like he's been waiting to practice that word. Day 12, my friend at the base goes off the air, and I set the phone on the table and stare at it like it's a door that only opens one way. Day 13, the wind carries a smell I don't have a name for. It's not metal. It's not smoke. It's not rain on dirt. It's like the smell of empty. Day 14, we hear that a city in the east is gone. Not hurt, not damaged. The word used is gone. The person saying it is a man who will not repeat himself. Day 15, a militia from up north rolls through town and looks at the station and then drives on. That frightens me more than if they'd stopped. Day 16, the clock in this room stops and I can't get it to start again. And I realize it doesn't matter, because time is now the space between when someone needs you and when you answer. Insider theory number 2, and this one I trust because it sounds small and mean instead of big and grand. It came from a technician who used to work on cell towers around Denver. He called last night from a roof on a handset he wired with his own gear. He said the towers didn't burn first. The towers were told to sleep. He said a packet went out, and then a command shut down firmware and pulled the ladder up inside the code, so you'd need a physical key you don't have. He said it's like someone turned off all the payphones in America on the same day and then welded the coin slot shut. That matches what I watch on this board. Calls die like fish in a bucket when the water gets warm. Then one gasps and you hear a voice, and you should answer that one, even if it makes the show messy. I'm going to open a third line now to a man named Eli outside Casper. He says he used to drive a truck up and down US 26, and he knows the shape of that road like the lines on his palm. He says the state troopers put a roadblock at a point where the highway slides between hills. And he says that's smart, because a single wrecker blocks both lanes there. He says the troopers are polite and tired, and they ask, "Where are you going?" And if you say, "I don't know," they say, "Then you're here." He says someone spray painted "here" on the asphalt, and kids jump from foot to foot trying not to step on the word. I ask him if he has shelter. He says he sleeps in the cab and keeps the vents closed and wipes the seals with a wet cloth. He says he hasn't taken a deep breath in a week because when he tries, his body says no. He asks if it's safe to cut north on back roads, and I tell him the true thing I've learned. Safe is a moving dot. If you have fuel, move when the wind is down and the dust lays heavy. If you do not have fuel, stay as still as a fence post and look like you were born there until people believe you were. I can feel myself talking too fast and too long, and that's how fear hides inside facts. I'm trying to keep the pulse steady. The pulse is this: take care of water, take care of air, take care of people. In that order today, maybe in a different order tomorrow. Boil when not under boil order. Filter twice when you can. Coffee filters were made for coffee, but they will settle ash like they were made for it, and a cotton shirt will do in a pinch. 2 buckets, one for dirty, one for clean, and a piece of tubing between them so gravity does the slow work while you do the urgent work. If you have bleach, write the ratio on your wall now so you don't forget when your hands shake. 2 drops per liter, 8 per gallon. Let it sit, smell it, then cap it. If you don't have a dropper, a straw works if you plug one end with your finger and learn a new kind of patience. I will share one personal thing and then put it away. On day 4, my wife, Mara, drove south to find her mother in Loveland. She said she would be back that same night with a box of quilts and a folder with papers we didn't think we needed. I said I'd keep both radios on and make a joke about hazmat suits when she walked in. She did not walk in. Every night, I put her name out on 146.520 and on this AM, and on a piece of paper tacked to the corkboard by the door with pushpins shaped like little red flags. I don't say the house number. I don't say the cross street. I say the part of town we met, because if she hears me, she'll know that place, not the numbers. That's my load. You have yours. We'll carry them together, even if we can't see each other. Time check by battery watch, 2:39 a.m. If anyone is catching WWV, please call with the top of hour tone at 3 o'clock so we can sync. That keeps the mind clean. Clean minds make better choices. If you're hearing this on 6:40 a.m. and you lose me, sweep the band slow between 6:20 and 6:60 and listen for my voice inside the noise. If you're on HF, try 10 megahertz in the next hour if the ionosphere isn't torn up. If you catch the time station, you might catch me riding under it for a minute. If you're on a simple car radio, crack the window on the downwind side just enough to keep the glass from fogging. And if you have a wool blanket, wrap your legs. Heat climbs. Keep yours low. If you're near a coast, any coast, do not drink from open cisterns near the bay. Dust settles on water before it settles on your porch. You can't see all of it, and it doesn't care if you can see it. I'm going to read a short list from the whiteboard because we made a rule to always read the whiteboard every hour, no matter how tired we are. The whiteboard says, share, seal, slow. Share a thing you do not need right now. Seal the room you sleep in tighter than the room you cook in. Slow your steps in daylight so you don't kick up what you just let settle. That's all. We keep it simple, because simple is what survives the 3rd day and the 13th and the 30th. There are names on the board too, and I will read a few so the world holds them for a minute. Sandra, Loveland, Mateo, Greeley, Robert, North Platte. Jin, Laramie. Evie, Cheyenne. If you hear a name that is yours, answer with anything you can, even if it's just a knock on your own table, because bodies like to know their names still work. A short note on medicine, because callers keep asking, and I hear more coughing at night now than I did last week. If you have a fever and no breath, and you are outside on a dusty day, that might be a lung irritant more than a normal bug. Wet cloth over the face. Sit upright. Slow breaths through the nose if the nose will let you. If you have a fever and a stiff neck, and you are under stress and in tight spaces with many people, that might be something else, and you need rest and a little salt in your water and quiet. If you have a fever and a rash, and you are outside during a flash, get inside, rinse skin with clean water. If you have enough to spare, don't scrub, and then rest in the darkest room you have. Don't take more salt than your body asks for because more isn't better. It's just more. Political theory, because the world is doing politics even while we hold buckets. I've heard 3 kinds of power moving through the dark. The first wears uniforms and is real but thin, like a thread that can still stitch a wound if you don't pull too hard. They set roadblocks and calm crowds and run out of diesel, and then stand in the road anyway, because they don't know how not to. The second power is men with radios and flags you don't recognize who tell you what the law is today and then change it tomorrow. They're fast, and they like trucks. The third power is the one inside your block, where nobody had a title 2 weeks ago, and now Mrs. Patel collects medicines, and James picks water crews, and the kid with the skateboard knows which alleys are safe. Don't waste time waiting for the first power to save you, or fighting the second in your head. Grow the third. Slow and boring wins a long storm. I'm hearing a weak call on the line, and I'm going to ride it even if it drops, because that's what this hour is for. The voice is small. The name is Nora. She says she's in a basement in Lakewood with her dad and 2 neighbors. She says the house across the street still has Christmas lights up, and they glow when the power flickers like ghosts who missed their cue. She asks if it's true that Denver is empty. I tell her Denver is not empty. Denver is full of people who are trying not to be seen. Cities never go empty. They go quiet. She asks what to do if someone knocks. I say, make a rule now, not when the knock comes. Decide who speaks. Decide what you say. Decide how you look when you open the door. Decide what you don't show. She says, what do you mean by what you don't show? I say, the water. Don't show the water. Hide it under a bed with a blanket over it. People have eyes that find a blue cap faster than they find a book. I'm going to say something that will sound like a sermon, and it isn't. Kindness is cheaper than you remember. A can of soup is expensive. A blanket is expensive. Kindness costs the air it takes to say a name right, and the breath it takes to ask, how are your hands? Can you carry more? Do you need a chair? You'll need your neighbors more than you need your battery before long. Start now while you still have a charge. We're getting close to 3 a.m. and I want to try for the time call. Before we do, here's the update on infrastructure in a rough circle around us. North, Torrington to Wheatland, partial grid with brownouts, water pressure low, boil advisories in effect when they dare to send a notice. East, Sydney has a working clinic with a generator and a line around the block. A convoy of pickups with feed and diesel left 2 hours ago headed north, unknown return. South, Fort Collins, volunteer hubs at fire stations, curfew enforced by patrols with hearing protection and long guns. Radio discipline is tight, and they share little. West, Laramie, Radio quiet. A faint beacon at the university physics building on a frequency I can't lock. Interstate 80, both ways. Closed in places by jackknifed rigs or deliberate blocks. In other places open but empty, which is worse because you drive faster when you feel alone, and that's when you hit the thing in the road you didn't see because your eyes are full of fear. I will close this segment with a small, real thing. There's a plant on the windowsill I forgot to water before the first week blew through us. It's one of those tough little ones you can't kill even if you try. Yesterday, I poured an inch of clean water in its dish, and the leaves stood up like someone told them a joke. It looked like a salute. I stared at it for a full minute, and in that minute, I believed two things at the same time. That the world can end in large ways and begin in small ones, and that we get to choose which one we hold while we wait for the next knock at the door. If you can still hear me, you're on 640 AMKZRP, Cheyenne, and whatever we are now. Keep your windows taped, keep your buckets labeled, keep your feet quiet when the wind is up. At the top of the hour, I will try to catch the time call. After that, if the battery holds, I'll read another list of names and take more calls and pass along anything that smells like truth. Hold the line. 3 o'clock came and went without the tone. I counted the seconds with my thumb on the desk, felt each one like a tap from someone trapped behind a wall. At 3:02, the weak carrier I use as a crutch faded, and the room felt bigger in a bad way. I set the watch to 3:03 by hand and wrote it down in the log because writing makes things steady. If you're keeping your own time, mark it. Small clocks that agree with each other make people act like a group even when they can't see one another. The wind outside dropped in the last few minutes. I cracked the leeward window an inch and heard nothing but a soft rasp under the sill, like sand finding a place to sleep. The counter by the door held below 1 with the seal set, so I let the door stay taped. If you're doing the same, brush the tape with your sleeve now and then. You'll feel it stick less if the dust is winning and you need another layer. I know you didn't plan to become a person who stares at tape. None of us did. Here we are. I have a sheet of paper from yesterday's relay that shows a list of towns and short notes. It's not official. It's what a dozen voices said between drops. I'll read the ones in reach of this tower. Kimball. Water trucks parked at the fairgrounds, guarded. Limit of 2 jugs per family. Line forms at dawn. Bring your own containers. Sterling. Hospital on generator. Accepting walk-ins for first aid only. No scans, no surgeries. Dental clinic set up in a church basement for extractions. Brush. School serves soup at noon. You trade labor for bowls. Wood cutting, trash pickup, latrine digging. No one turned away just for being old or small. Garing. Coal yard lit 2 nights in a row. Someone says they saw sparks and then nothing. Another voice says those weren't sparks. They were something else. Note written in the margin. Don't mix hope with rumor. They both burn fast. The board shows 2 lines holding. I'm going to take the first. If your call drops, try again. If you hear me, stay with me, even if I stutter. First caller, you're live. The voice is a woman. Rough like someone who yells for a living and spent a day not yelling. She says her name is May, and she's a nurse in North Platte, or used to be, depending on what words mean now. She says they turned the ER into 3 rooms with curtains made from bed sheets and gaffer tape. One room is for people who need to drink and sleep and be told to stop lifting heavy things. One room is for cuts and broken bones from trying to move a world that isn't balanced anymore. One room is for people who were outside when the ash fell on day 5 and kept working. She says that third room is the quiet one. She says they made a rule. If you can speak in full sentences and count to 10 without losing your place, you get soup and a cot. If you can't, you get a chair by the door. She says it sounds cruel when she hears herself say it out loud, but the rule saves time, and time saves hands, and hands save people. I ask what they need. She says salt, sugar, gloves, masks that fit small faces, tape, and someone to sit with the people in the chair and hold a cup. I ask if she trusts the water. She says they're running the taps through 2 layers of cloth, then a slow bucket. She says the hospital put a list on the wall that says what we can do today, and they erase and write as the hours kick them. She asks me to say a name. Charlie, age 9, likes trucks, lost his, found a dog, kept the dog, needs a home for the dog that doesn't hate kids. I say it. If you're within a walk of North Platte and have a yard with a stump and a fence and a kid who needs a friend, you listen for Charlie and you say you heard his name on the radio and you have a bowl and a blanket. That's how we do this now. Second line. The voice is a man in his 40s, slow and careful. Gives only a first name, Gus, and a rank, sergeant, and says he's with a guard unit he won't name. He sounds like someone talking on a porch after a funeral, not like someone giving orders. He says there are orders, but they feel like they were written for a different world. Control intersections, enforce curfew, secure water points, keep crowds calm, guard pharmacies, escort fuel. He says they can do some of that some of the time, but when they do one, the other 5 crack. He says the hard part isn't the crowds. The hard part is deciding who burns fuel and who walks and who doesn't move at all. He says they were told to expect distributed leadership, which is a nice way of saying the town will run itself, whether you like it or not. He says the armories are full of good kids with dry eyes and quick hands, and older guys who know what a dead battery sounds like. He says they have 2 kinds of commanders now. The ones who think this will snap back by the end of the month if everyone just stands still, and the ones who understand that standing still is a way to get pulled under. I ask him what he wants people to know when they see a roadblock. He says, roll the window down on the downwind side. Keep both hands where we can see them. Say where you slept last night. Say where you plan to sleep tonight. And if you don't know, say so. Because I don't know is an honest answer. And the lie is what gets you searched. He says, don't try to run a checkpoint when you're scared. Your wheels slide on dust like they do on ice. And then you've made a fear into a wreck. We have to move with our backs. He pauses, then he gives me a thing that isn't on any official list. He says one of his officers had a brother in a satellite office out east who sent a short note before everything turned to busy signals. Expect soft martial law, which means no one will say the words out loud because words make lawyers wake up. But you'll know it when you see the same trucks at the same corners 2 nights in a row, and when curfew shifts from a suggestion to a rule with a whistle attached, and when ID checks happen without a machine. He says don't fight that. It will break on its own. Build the thing under it that lasts longer. Watch groups with chairs, not guns. Rows of buckets instead of a floor full of loose bottles. A page that lists the old folks on your block and who brings them water on odd days. He thanks me and hangs up because his battery is almost gone and his voice sounds like gravel rolling down a ditch. I said we would do science when we can do science. This is simple and dumb and good, the best kind. If you have a strip of black and white photo film, the kind with a silver layer, or an old disposable camera you can open in the dark, you can make your own check on the world. Put a strip in a paper envelope. Tape the envelope to the inside of a can. Set the can near an outside door for a day, with the lid partly on so air can move, but light can't. Do the same in your sleeping room with the lid more snug. After a day, take both to wherever there's a person who still knows how to develop film. Or if you can do it yourself with powder in a bucket, do it slow. If both strips look the same, your inside and outside are cousins. If the one from the door is more ghosted, you know you need more cloth and more quiet near the threshold. It's not perfect. It's not a badge. It's a hint. We live on hints now. Hints keep you from making a dumb mistake while you're tired. A new line woke. The caller says his name is Shane, and he's parked outside Lusk with a trailer full of hay he can't get across a county line because no one knows which cattle are still on their feet. He says he used to think of the land as a big empty, and now he sees how heavy it is when it isn't moving. He says he hasn't seen a star in 2 nights, and that's wrong for this stretch. He asks if it's safe to light a fire in a pit. I tell him a small coal bed with a lid is safer than a flicker that asks for attention. I tell him to dig a cat hole for the ash and cover it like he's ashamed of it. He laughs in a short burst and says, "Shame is a weird word now." He tells me the truck stop at Mule Creek put up a chalkboard that says, "Take what you need, write what you took." And someone wrote hope under the list, and then someone else wrote pie, and then someone drew a slice. He says he stared at that slice for a long time and felt like he'd eaten. I write that down next to the plant on the sill. There are whispers in the hamnets about the maps. If you have not heard, here it is plain. In the first days, big agencies put out plume maps that looked clean and neat, like the sky follows rules we can see. Then the wind did what it does here and turned 2 lines into a braid. The smartest message I've heard came from an old meteorologist who started calling himself Shortwave Sam because he didn't want to scare his grandkids if they were listening. He said, "Don't live by the line on a map drawn before the dust fell." He said, "Live by your valley and the way your flag moves and the taste of your teeth when you come back from a walk." He meant, check your own place. He meant, the world is small now. Your block, your yard, your room. It's not selfish to look close. It's the opposite. People who look close make fewer dumb moves, and fewer dumb moves make fewer cries in the night. A listener dropped off a note yesterday with a rumor I'll put here, because it lines up with 3 other notes from far apart. State TV in a country that used to be just a shape on our weather maps is running old movies at night and parades in the day and never shows the sky. Another note says their radio bands carry national music hours with no talk in between, which is a thing governments do when they want to flood your head with sound so you stop counting. Another note says their borders look open until you try to walk through one. I don't say this to make you look east or west and curse strangers. I say it so you don't wait for the weather to change, because a capital you can't see decides it should. Your weather is the way your door sticks in the morning and how quick your water clears. Someone's tapping a slow code on the HF set. I can't trust my ear like I used to, but it sounds like CQ, then a call sign I won't repeat. The message is short. WWV weak. Voice overlay. 0400. Hazard continues. The same line, the same machine voice, with a new sentence stapled to it. That comforts me in a strange way. It means someone, somewhere, still edits a tape. A person with a mouth and a hand changed a thing. If they can do that, you can boil a pot and label a jug and stack your wood in rows that don't look like a cyclone hit your shed. I want to tell you a small personal thing. Then I'll go to the board again. On my way into this room tonight, I stepped on a lost coin under the coat rack. It was a quarter, face down, edge up, the kind that flips and lands where it likes. For a second, my old brain said, "Pick it up, Lucky." Then my new brain said, "Leave it. A quarter doesn't start a truck anymore." I left it on the floor and thought about how many times my hands moved on reflex when I didn't need them to. That's one trick of this time. Make new reflexes. Tape the door. Label the bucket. Turn the handle slow. Ask a name twice so you get it right. The old reflexes will still be there when we need them again. We just put them on a high shelf so they don't trip us while we walk. Names from the board, then a new set of calls. We read them like a roll call, because if a name hits a wall and bounces back into a room where someone cries, that's a good use of air. Lottie, Windsor, Kian, Sydney, Ramon, Sterling, Belle, Gehring, Omar, Cheyenne, Ruth, Loveland. If you are listening and one of these is yours, make a mark on your doorframe so you see it in the morning and you remember you were heard. I'm going to share a quiet, ugly truth I learned the hard way, so you don't have to say you learned it the hard way too. The first week, I kept the radio loud, even when nothing useful came through because the noise blocked the part of my head that wanted to count losses. The noise made me a bad neighbor. I missed knocks. I missed a small voice on the stair who needed a bandage. Turn the noise down once an hour and listen to your building, your block, your wind. You'll hear a thing you can fix in 10 minutes that you would miss in 10 hours. A dripping pipe, a loose board, a person who doesn't want to say they need help until you say, "I'm here." And then they let the need out like air from a tire. We have a call from a teenager in Aurora who says her name is Lena. Her phone is old and the mic is bad, and the line coils like a snake, but her voice is clear when she slows down. She says she and her brother and their neighbor sleep in the parking garage where the silt doesn't drift as fast, 6 floors up, middle row. She says their mom works days at a clinic downtown and nights at the same clinic because everyone works days and nights now. She says at sunset, a group in matching jackets came through and took photos of the entrances and put tape marks on the pillars as if they were claiming squares on a game board. She says they came back the next day and moved the marks and brought a generator and lights, and now they stand at the mouth of the garage and say it's secured space. She asks if they're allowed to say no. I tell her a thing that won't please everyone listening. Yes, you are allowed to say no to people who claim your bed without a paper with a seal, or a neighbor who says it's right. But saying no means you have to make a plan for the new bed before night. No is a word with chores attached. I ask if they have somewhere else to go. She says there's a church 2 blocks over that opens the basement at night and closes it at dawn and asks you to sweep if you sleep. I tell her to go while the light is gray and the dust is lazy, and to carry only what she can hold with one hand so the other hand can open a door. She breathes into the phone and says okay, and then she says, "My brother thinks we should leave the city." I tell her to say, "Not at dark," and to mean it. This is the part where I'm supposed to give you a high thought about leaders and plans and maps and flags so you feel like someone up high is lifting you. I won't do that. I will give you a low thought that fits your hands. Make a little chart by your door with 3 columns: water, air, people. Every morning, mark one thing you did for each. Water, filled 2 bottles, labeled them. Air, sealed the bedroom, wiped the sill. People, checked on the neighbor with the limp, taught a kid how to use the radio, said a name right. By the end of a week, the chart will look like a field that someone planted. You'll see rows grow. That's how we'll stay upright while the big gears grind. We're at 329 by the watch, and I think I hear a steadier carrier on 10 megahertz. If the tone hits at 330, I'll mark it and say so, and if it doesn't, I'll still mark it, because absence is a thing you can put on a line, not just a hole. After the half hour, I'll try for a relay from the university in Laramie. Someone keeps keying a beacon over there that sounds like a heartbeat with a cough. If you're the one running that beacon, and you hear me, I'd take it as a kindness if you'd call and tell us what you need. We can't carry much for you, but we can speak your need into rooms beyond yours. And sometimes, that makes the world bend a degree in your favor. Before I reach for the other dial, one last thing to carry into the next hour. A man named Victor left a note at our door. It said, "I used to repair vending machines. The little halogen bulbs inside are in a box under the snack coils and fit in hand lanterns. People forget that. They leave them." He drew a picture of where the bulbs sit. He wrote, "Turn the machine off at the breaker before you reach in. My cousin lost a finger to a spring." That's the world now. A map to a light hidden in a box we used to hate for eating our quarters. If you find one, leave the last bulb for the next person. Scratch a note in the dust so they find it faster. That's a kind of law we can live with. I'm going to reach for the HF set now and see if the time call is there under the buzz. Keep your seal. Keep your chart. If you pray, pray for the ones who carry buckets at dawn. If you don't, say their names anyway. Either way, we meet at the top and bottom of the hour as long as these car batteries let us. And even after, if a voice will carry across a room to a stairwell and then down a hall, that's still radio in the way that matters. I'll be here. Keep the line. 03:48 a.m. Now. Still no time signal from WWV, but a faint hum comes through the static every 7 seconds, like someone breathing through a vent. Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's something. Either way, I marked it down in the log. Habit keeps the mind from rusting. The room smells faintly of dust and old coffee grounds, the kind that turn bitter after a day. I scrape a chair back and sit lower. My knees ache from the cold floor. The inverter is whining. I can hear the hum of the power line ghosts. Somewhere out there, a section of grid must still be alive. If you've tuned in recently, this is Caleb Mercer, or what's left of him, broadcasting from Cheyenne on 640 AM KZRP, the last beacon, as some of you are calling it. The world outside the concrete walls doesn't look like Wyoming anymore. The stars have been gone for 2 nights straight. The horizon glows faint red in pulses, but not from fire. The glow doesn't rise or fade. It just hovers, like something holding its breath. I'm reading reports from what's left of the ham relays. No one trusts them, but they're all we have. The Cascade line out of Montana says a convoy from the north never made it past Billings. Roads blocked, bridges burned. Another message from Omaha said the Missouri turned black, thick as oil, and fish floated belly up by the hundreds. People tried boiling the water anyway. They got sick, throats swelling shut, lips cracking. The caller said her husband's skin turned gray before dawn. She couldn't even dig the hole before the ground froze. Someone else, Don from Kearney, says the radio towers on the hill are flashing a warning light again. It's the first man-made light he's seen in days. He's scared to go closer. He says the air around the tower hums like it's alive. Says birds fall straight down mid-flight if they cross under the beams. I don't know what to tell him except stay away. We used to build machines we could turn off. Not anymore. Half the ones still working don't even answer to a switch. I don't know who's listening anymore, but I know you're out there. Maybe lying on a floor somewhere with your radio pressed to your chest like a heartbeat. Maybe crouched behind a door, whispering so you don't scare your kids. Maybe driving until the tank's dry, chasing a signal through static like a ghost story you still believe in. I hear you. I can't see you, but I hear the noise between your breaths. There's something strange happening up north. At 2:50, I picked up a data burst on 14 megahertz. Short, encrypted, tight packet rhythm. The kind the military used before this all began. I don't have the gear to decode it, but I counted 3 long bursts, then silence. 10 minutes later, 3 flashes on the western horizon. Silent ones. You can tell the difference. The bright ones that don't roar. Silent light. That's the part that still turns my stomach. Every time the world ends, it does it quietly. A man from Rapid City called earlier. He said the Black Hills glow at night now, and the forest crackles underfoot like the trees are hollow. He says there's a hum coming from the caves, steady, low, mechanical. He tried recording it on a tape deck, but the tape warped and melted halfway through. He says the air inside the caves feels thick, almost magnetic. He asked if it was radiation. I told him it probably was, but the truth is, I don't know. None of us do. The books tell you numbers, sieverts, REMs, decay rates, but they don't tell you what it feels like when your hair stands up from a gust of invisible wind. People used to argue about what would end us first: climate, AI, disease, greed. Turns out it wasn't any of those in isolation. It was the silence after each warning. The way every headline said, temporary escalation or contained incident. The way we treated the word limited like it was a shield. Let me tell you something. When I was a kid, my dad had a saying, limited only means we haven't counted yet. I think about that a lot lately. We're 16 days into whatever this is. 16 days since the sky broke open and the cities went dark. 16 days since governments stopped pretending they had control. I heard a recording last night on one of the emergency bands. Some British voice reading off coordinates like an old Cold War drill. The signal faded halfway through and someone else came on. An American accent, calm, rehearsed. Said, continuity of governance has been secured. The continental defense perimeter remains intact. Then a click and static. It was recorded. Maybe years old, maybe yesterday. But the words still chilled me. Because continuity doesn't mean safety. It just means someone somewhere survived enough to lie again. People keep asking about the fallout line. How far, how fast, how long. Here's what I know. It doesn't fall like snow. It moves like fog. Low, crawling. It doesn't settle evenly. It gathers in gutters, between fences, behind trucks, inside clotheslines. It clings to you like memory. If you see it shine under a flashlight, it's too late to brush off. You'll smell it before you see it. A sharp, metallic tang, like lightning trapped in a jar. Don't touch it. Don't even breathe near it. Step around the puddles that shimmer like oil. Those are hot. Keep your windows sealed, your vents covered, your floor swept with damp rags. Keep your breath shallow when you open the door. Pretend the world outside is a stranger's house you weren't invited into. I'll tell you what scares me most. It's not the bombs. It's the quiet afterward. The way people vanish from the airwaves. Every day the frequencies get emptier. Like voices are sinking beneath the static. Yesterday, the station out of Boise said they were evacuating south. Today, that frequency's dead. Albuquerque was relaying emergency power reports at noon, gone by dusk. Chicago went first. Every rumor says the same thing. No survivors, no broadcasts, no lights, just the echo of sirens that never turned off. You want to know how far this spread? There's no far anymore. It's everywhere, just at different speeds. The lucky ones are the ones who died early. The rest of us are learning what silence tastes like. I've been hearing something strange on 31 megahertz. Low, steady tone, repeating every 20 minutes. Sometimes there's a voice under it. Sounds like a woman. The first time, she said, "Temperature dropping." The second time, "Don't open the hatch." The third time, I think she said, "They moved." Her voice was slow, like it had been copied too many times. I've been recording it on cassette. I'll play it back when the batteries die and the dark gets too loud. Hold on, dash, 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 Another frequency spike. East side of the band. I can't tell if it's Morse or just distortion from the inverter. All right. Fading again. You know, before this all started, I used to fill the dead air with commercials, car dealerships, mattress sales. The world felt so alive that we needed breaks from it. Now I'd give anything for a voice yelling about 0% APR financing. Anything that sounds like a world that still makes promises. If you're listening, keep your signals clean. Stay on analog. Digital's a corpse now. Don't waste power trying to reach me if your generator's low. Just keep the rhythm. Tune in at the top and bottom of every hour. I'll be here until my last battery blinks out. There's a rumor, God, there's always a rumor, that the eastern seaboard's gone. That DC, New York, Boston, they're all underwater. Not from nukes, but from collapse. Dams bursting, tidal surges, radiation flash boiling the harbors. They say ships drift into the coast with no one aboard, lights still flickering, music playing through the intercoms. One man from Maine swore he saw a cruise liner stuck sideways in a harbor, deck chairs still standing, tables still set for dinner, not a single body, just an eerie blue glow inside the windows. We used to be terrified of the idea of ghosts. Now ghosts are the only thing left that act normal. 03:59 a.m. now. I'm switching to the West relay in a moment. The batteries won't hold much longer. Before I do, I want to say something I shouldn't. If you're out there, Mara, I'm still here. The studio's cold, the coffee's gone stale, and the wind sounds like it's trying to speak through the cracks. But I'm still here. I kept your scarf by the mic. It still smells like cedar and old perfume. If you find this frequency, say my name. That's all I want to hear before the air goes silent. All right. This is Caleb Mercer, 6:40 a.m. Cheyenne. Holding the line. Stay low. Stay sealed. Stay human. Now switching bands. Over to West Relay. If you can still hear me, you're one of the last.